He said enough. Not in the quiet, diplomatic, carefully managed way that professional athletes are trained to say enough. Not through a politely worded statement released by his representation at a strategically chosen moment designed to minimize controversy and protect relationships and leave every door open for the future. He said it out loud. At a press conference. With cameras rolling and microphones live and the entire baseball world listening. I've had enough of the Angels management. 7 words. From one of the greatest players the sport has ever produced. A player who gave that organization everything, years of his prime, loyalty that went beyond what any contract required, a commitment to staying that cost him opportunities and championships and the kind of postseason moments that define legacies, finally saying out loud what everyone had suspected for years but nobody had expected to hear stated so directly. Mike Trout has left the Angels. Not on loan. Not through a trade that maintains some connection to the organization. Not in the ambiguous way that sometimes allows both sides to pretend the separation is something other than what it is. He left. Officially. Completely. With a 5-year contract signed with the Dodgers and a confession at his introductory press conference that left the baseball world momentarily unable to speak. And then, immediately after the signing, immediately after the press conference, immediately after the magnitude of what had just happened began settling into the consciousness of everyone paying attention, his phone rang. Shohei Ohtani. 30 minutes. A private conversation between two players whose connection goes deeper than statistics or contracts or the particular geography of which uniform they happen to be wearing. 30 minutes that nobody else was present for. That no microphone captured. That exists only in whatever passed between two men who understand each other in the specific way that only the truly elite can understand each other. Today we are going inside every detail of this story. The departure. The confession. The Dodgers signing. And the 30-minute phone call that may have said more about both of these men than anything that happened at any press conference. This is not just a transaction. This is a reckoning. To understand why those 7 words landed with the force they did, you need to understand what Mike Trout gave the Angels before he finally said enough. Because the story of Trout and the Angels is not a story of an athlete who grew impatient with a rebuilding process or who chased money to a larger market or who left because the grass looked greener somewhere else and the pull of a championship was simply stronger than his loyalty. It is a story of extraordinary patience finally exhausted. Of loyalty sustained far beyond what the circumstances justified. Of a player who could have left, who had every legitimate reason to leave, who had the leverage and the market and the performance record that would have made any destination possible, choosing to stay. And stay. And stay again. While the Angels made decisions around him that frustrated him. While the organization cycled through management structures and philosophies and roster constructions that promised competitiveness and delivered something consistently short of it. While the postseason remained a place Trout watched from home, year after year, despite being the kind of talent that should have been playing deep into October every single season. He stayed through all of it. He gave them more time than they had earned. He committed to the organization with a sincerity that anyone watching closely could see was genuine rather than contractual. And then one day, the day that produced those 7 words at the press conference, he was done. Not dramatically. Not with a demand or an ultimatum or any of the mechanisms through which athletes in his position sometimes force their way out. He simply reached the end of what patience and loyalty could sustain and made a decision that his performance and his legacy and his career deserved better than what staying offered him. I've had enough of the Angels management. 7 words. Delivered calmly. Without apparent anger, which somehow made them land harder than anger would have. The calm of someone who has moved fully through a decision and arrived at the other side of it. The calm of someone who is not venting frustration but stating a conclusion. The room went quiet when he said it. Not the polite quiet of an audience waiting for the next sentence. The specific quiet that falls when something true and unexpected enters a space and everyone present needs a moment to absorb it. A 5-year contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's sit with the geography of that for a moment. Because it matters in ways that go beyond the baseball implications of adding Mike Trout to an already extraordinary roster. Trout is not leaving California. He is not making the kind of clean break from one world to another that some player departures represent. He is staying in Los Angeles, the same city, the same sports market, the same community of fans who have watched him for years. But he is crossing a line that in Los Angeles baseball culture carries enormous weight. From the Angels to the Dodgers is not simply a change of employer. It is a statement. A declaration about where he believes he belongs. About which organization, in the city he has called home, represents the standard he wants to compete within for the next chapter of his career. The Dodgers did not need Mike Trout the way a rebuilding team needs a star. They are already operating at the highest level of the sport. Their roster construction, their front office philosophy, their organizational culture of sustained excellence, all of it was already functioning before Trout's name entered the conversation. What adding Trout means is something different. It is the addition of a player whose presence changes not just the lineup but the atmosphere. Whose reputation and track record and sheer accumulated excellence communicate something to every opposing team that faces that roster. That the standard here is absolute. That there is no soft spot. That from top to bottom this organization has committed to competing at the level that championships require. For Trout, the meaning runs in the other direction. After years inside an organization where that standard felt aspirational rather than actual, he is now inside one where it is simply the baseline. The minimum expectation. The floor rather than the ceiling. That shift, from an environment where excellence was the exception to one where it is the expectation, is what he was really signing when he signed that 5-year contract. He was not signing for money. He was signing for the chance to finally find out what he can do inside an organization that matches what he has always brought to the field. Immediately after the signing. Immediately after the press conference where 7 words changed the conversation around one of baseball's greatest players forever. Immediately after the magnitude of what had just happened was still settling. Shohei Ohtani called. 30 minutes. That detail, 30 minutes, is not incidental. A congratulatory call between professional athletes, the kind that happens routinely when someone signs a significant contract or achieves something notable, does not last 30 minutes. A 30-minute call is a conversation. A real one. The kind that requires 2 people to have something genuine to say to each other and the relationship to say it within. Ohtani and Trout have that relationship. Their connection is not one of casual professional acquaintance. It is something built through years of shared space in the same baseball city, through the particular bond that forms between elite players who recognize in each other the specific and rare combination of talent and character that makes the highest level of the sport what it is. They understand each other in a way that requires no explanation to people who have watched them both closely. 2 players who operate at a level above the normal conversation about baseball excellence. 2 players whose approach to preparation and competition and the daily discipline that sustained greatness requires has always reflected something similar at the core. What did Ohtani say in those 30 minutes? Nobody knows. That conversation belongs to the 2 men who had it. And given everything we understand about both of them, about their shared instinct toward privacy, toward keeping the most genuine parts of themselves out of the public performance of their professional lives, it will likely stay that way. But we can understand something about what that call represented even without knowing what was said. It represented recognition. The specific recognition that only someone operating at the same level can offer. Not the congratulations of a fan or the approval of a coach or the professional assessment of an analyst. The recognition of a peer. Of someone who understands exactly what it took to make that decision, exactly what it cost, and exactly what it means for everything that comes next. Ohtani called because Trout deserved to hear from someone who truly understood. And 30 minutes later, when the call ended, something had passed between them that no press conference and no contract and no 7 words delivered calmly into a roomful of cameras could fully contain. Mike Trout left the Angels. He said exactly why. 7 words at a press conference that changed the conversation around one of the greatest careers in baseball history and said more about the organization he was leaving than any analytical breakdown ever could. He signed with the Dodgers. 5 years. In the same city. A different world. And immediately after, before the ink was fully processed, before the baseball world had finished its first reaction, Shohei Ohtani called him. 30 minutes. Private. Real. 2 of the greatest players of their generation, connected by something that goes beyond which uniform they wear or which organization signs their checks or which city claims them as its own. Trout finally has what his talent always deserved. An organization that matches his standard. A roster that gives his excellence the context it needs. A chapter of his career that might finally deliver the October moments that all those patient, loyal, frustrating years in Anaheim never could. And somewhere in that 30-minute phone call, Ohtani already knew it. He just wanted Trout to know that he knew.